Okay, so I've had the quite common fault of the air conditioning no longer working once the engine's warm, and through various bits of investigation it's down to the fact that the clutch gap is too large. So I've just got this feeler gauge here, and I'm placing it inside the clutch gap there. Now this feeler gauge is a 0.63mm. Don't know whether it can pick it up on there, it's upside down. 0.63mm, and this clutch gap should be 0.4 to 0.6. So 0.6 not only goes in very easily, but there's actually quite a bit of play there. So that tells me that the gap is actually quite a bit bigger than 0.6, maybe even 0.9mm. Doesn't present a problem when the engine's cold, the aircon works fine, but then once it's warmed up the aircon won't work. So I'm going to show you a free fix, and I've called it a free fix because hopefully it's going to be using things that you'll be able to find knocking around the house or be able to pick up for, you know, next to nothing. So to do this fix very simply, I'm actually going to be using two hammers. One of them I'm just going to be using as an anvil. I've got some wire. This is I'm not even sure what this is. I've had this lying around in the shed for years. I think it might even have been welding wire at one point in its life. And I'm actually going to be hammering down a section of this wire to insert into the clutch plate behind the springs to reduce the backward travel of the spring, so the clutch plate maintains a closer gap. So two hammers and then some long nose pliers, but some long reach long nose pliers, and then a screwdriver, a long screwdriver, not too wide at the end though, you'll just have to weigh that up. So all I'm going to do now is get cutting this wire to probably around about 2 inches in length, something like that, and I'm going to be hammering down a section that's around about 1.5 inches, hammering it flat, and then I'll show you how I work with that piece afterwards. I'm going to do around about, I think, 6 of those, so yeah, I'll crack on with that. Okay, so I've hammered this down pretty slim. My caliper batteries are going, so I don't know whether I'll get an accurate reading. I'm hoping I will. Oh god, it's all over the place. Let's see. So I've taken around about 0.4, taking this down to about 0.4mm, because my theory is really that the gap is somewhere around about 0.9, and if I can reduce the spring back by, you know, maybe 0.3, 0.4mm, that should do the job nicely. So yeah, so I'm going to get inserting these, and I'll show you how I do that now. So I'll be inserting the screwdriver just around that point there, just so I can get leverage to close the clutch gap. And what it does around the circular springs, which it'll probably be best illustrated once I've got one of these shims inserted, as I lever the clutch gap forwards so there's no clutch gap, it actually creates a space for one of these shims to go into, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so I've got the first one inserted now. I'll just try and get the screwdriver on the end of it, just to if I can bend it out, and then you can see exactly where it's gone in. Can you see where it's bending there? See the little pin? You can see the slot that I've got it down inside. So I've got it nicely down inside there now, and I'm going to do another 6 to all the way around, get those bent over, and then measure the clutch gap again. Well, hopefully you can see what where we're up to now. So the pin's gone through there, and I've intercepted the end as it came through just here and bent it outwards. And basically what I'm going to do then is just bend that pin very securely against this, because obviously the rotational force of the aircon pulley, once it's turning round, if it's not secured and bent around, this will just fling off and could shred your belt or do what else, you know, do lots of other things. So I'm just going to get that bent in place. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm only going to do 3 though. I'm not actually going to do all 6. I'm only going to do 3 because I actually think 3 evenly spaced will be enough to close the gap. And then the final thing is to trim down the shim and to bend it over. So see, I've got this slightly longer piece here. I've already bent this one down behind, and so if I just push that one down there, I'll do a better job when the camera's out the way. Fold that in there, do that for the other 3, and we should, and then, well, what I'll do then is I'll measure the clutch gap, and hopefully that's problem solved. It's also worth saying, if you're struggling to locate the ends of the pins in order to bend them back once they've been slotted through, I've just put just one of these tiny screwdrivers in here, and you just kind of maneuver it to hook and lever out the end of the pin in order to then be able to bend it. So if you're struggling there, that's just a little tip from me. Right, so we've got everything tied up. Like I say, I've just put 3 on there, evenly spaced. So it's time to check the air gap now. So I've got 0.4, 0.5 and 0.6. So I'll do the ones I'm really interested in are the 0.4 and the 0.6 millimeters, because that is ultimately you know, the tolerance that I'm looking for. So this is the 0.6 now, and it's just it is getting in, but it's barely getting in, and that's brilliant. I'm really pleased with that. So that's a good start. So let me just find the 0.4 now. So I've got the 0.4, and this is at the bottom end, so I really want this to be able to go in quite nicely, because if it's too close then you'll have the clutch rubbing against the main pulley, and that goes in absolutely spot on. So I would say that the gap is probably between 0.4 and 0.5 millimeters, and that should be fine. The final test though, and this is the big test, is to take it for a drive, get everything up to temperature, and then see if the aircon still works when everything's heated up. Okay, so we've got the engine up to operating temperature. It's 25 degrees centigrade outside. These would normally be the classic combination of conditions that would mean the aircon would fail, but I've got lovely cool air coming out of the aircon, got it on the lowest setting at the moment, and I'll be able to show you the compressor working. So as you can see down at the bottom, there's the clutch plate spinning quite nicely, which means the compressor's engaged and delivering the aircon. Radiator fan is blowing nicely as well. And then the final test to make sure your fix has gone correctly is to turn the air conditioning off, and that will disengage the clutch plate. So the clutch plate is disengaged, but more importantly there's no nasty noises, because if you reduce the clutch gap too much, then when the clutch plate is disengaged it will then rub against the main pulley. So it's getting that fine balance between not too close and not too far away, and that is what we've achieved today with that fix. So there we have it. Just by fitting 3 homemade and free of charge clips, you can just see them in there, just reducing that spring back. That's the Aircon clutch gap problem solved. There we go, a little bit of zoom in for you there so you can see them just a little bit easier. That's the Aircon clutch problem solved for free, and I hope you find that useful, and thanks very much for watching.